What is your logic regarding the left wing position?
You get 80 million quid for Luis Díaz. You snap their hand off and you run to the high heavens and you go and buy another winger with it.
Y aquí está lo que les había prometido. El otro día les traje lo que había dicho la prensa inglesa en las últimas semanas sobre Lucho Díaz. Ahora les traigo lo que dicen los hinchas de Liverpool sobre todo esto de que si se va, que si se queda, que si va al Barcelona, que Arabia Saudita, que cuánto lo deben vender, todas esas cosas. Y eso del Barcelona pues ya ha cambiado un poco. Ya han de haber escuchado que últimamente algunos medios en Barcelona dicen que ya no, que van por Nico Williams porque es más joven, que Lucho es muy caro para su edad, como si la edad que tuviera Lucho Díaz fuera tremenda. Qué viejo que está Lucho Díaz. Yo creo que lo ven así lo ven. Y van a escuchar a muchos de los hinchas de Liverpool hablando de la edad, que tiene 28 años, como si 28 años fuera viejísimo. Y hablamos un poco de eso, o sea, 28 años, va a tener 30 cuando termine el contrato, y todos dicen, ¿cómo va a ser eso? Y eso es lo que dijo Barcelona, es, si lo contratamos 3 o 4 años, va a tener 31, 32 años, lo que sea. No puede ser que gastemos tanto dinero por alguien que está tan viejo, ¿ya? Modric, ¿lo vieron a Modric? Ganó 3 Champions después de los 30 años, ¿ah? Bueno, quitemos a Messi y a Cristiano Ronaldo porque son pues, ¿no? fenómenos, ellos están aparte. Pero hay muchos jugadores, Benzema, Lewandowski, Gundogan, todos esos que están jugando todavía y les va bien. Todo depende de cada jugador, todo depende de cómo se cuiden. Una muestra opuesta es James Rodríguez, que no se ha cuidado físicamente bien y tiene 32 años y parece que tuviera 40. Así que todo depende del jugador y yo creo que Lucho se cuida muy bien. Yo creo que Lucho no es rumbero, no se maltrata. Yo creo que él va a durar muchos años a buen nivel. Así que, bueno, los dejo con el video, yo no hablo más. Escuchen a los hinchas, van a escuchar a Tom Little. Lo vieron al comienzo, lo van a escuchar al final diciendo unas cosas, pero bueno, ustedes ya saben. Ahí los dejo, varios pensamientos, unos no neutrales, otros como más lógicos, otros más emocionales. Los dejo. No olviden suscribirse, darle like al video. Recuerden que el pulgarcito me ayuda montones, hace que el canal crezca. Llegué a 8,000 suscriptores. Les agradezco a todos los que se han suscrito. 8,000 es un número que jamás pensé llegar. Espero llegar a 10,000 muy pronto, pero bueno, no. Poco a poco. Pero ya, me callo. Los dejo con el video. Disfruten. Nos vemos muy pronto aquí en Golazo.
I don't know. I'm a little bit on the fence about this one. I think that the club probably want Luis Díaz to stay, but the same token is we don't know what's gone on behind the scenes in terms of contract. You know, Diaz himself is 28 years old as well, so it's a case of, you know, he's not getting any younger, so, you know, offering him another, say, 2 years on his deal takes him to 30, and then you offer him an extension, say, of another 2 years, that takes him to 32. You know, do you want lots of players north of 30 in the squad, you know, especially obviously given that Virgil and Mo are not getting any younger? So it could be that, you know, the Liverpool are looking at this and going, well, he's 28, and he's got 2 years left, and he's going to be 30 at the end of his contract. So let's take the money. Let's take the 85 or take the 70 and kind of run with it. And you know, whilst I think a lot of us would love obviously Luis Díaz to stay because the guy's a good footballer, you've got to kind of weigh it up and look at it in terms of what's best for the football club moving forward in terms of money coming into the club. And you know, as much as we don't want to think about Liverpool Football Club as a business, it is a business. My personal opinion would be that to take the money because he's not getting any younger. And as good as he is, you know, we've got Cody Gakpo. Cody Gakpo, obviously, there's a commitment there to Gakpo. You know, Bayern allegedly interested in Gakpo. Liverpool have been quite strong in the fact that they're not selling Gakpo, that he will be here next season, telling Bayern to F off, basically. So, you know, I think obviously having Gakpo there, we've got Salah, Chiesa. There's a commitment to keep Chiesa around next season. You know, I think Wirtz can also, as well as play as a false nine, as a 10, he can also play out wide. You know, there's obviously as well Kerkez can push forward into that attacking left wing role as well. So there's a number of players that can play there. I think also, you know, there's talk of a number of people have said about Anthony Gordon again. I don't personally see that one happening, but you know, at the end of the day, you know, there is, I think, an aspect of perhaps truth in the stories about Luis Díaz and a possible departure from Anfield.
All right, here's the take for me on Luis Díaz, and I don't know if it's revolutionary, but you know, I'd be interested to know what your thoughts are. I think Liverpool should and probably will try to cash in on Luis Díaz this summer. I think the reason will be you're going to get maximum amount of value for him. You're going to get a player in on the exchange of that. It's not a trade, but you're going to get a player in to fill those boots, and you're going to get maximum value for him from either Saudi Arabia or Barcelona. But I still think that Liverpool want to move Luis Díaz on. I know that in one of my videos recently, I said, I think we could get the maximum out of Luis Díaz if we have Kirkes on that left side. And frankly, I think Liverpool, it's not a case of, is he a good or a bad player? It's obvious to me that Luis Díaz is a good player. But it's really a case of, does he fit the needs that Liverpool immediately have? And frankly, is he going to perform to the standard for that price that we can get at that price elsewhere? I appreciate what Diaz has done for the team, but at the same time, I'm ready for him to move on if he was to go.
It's not going to be an easy job to replace Lucho. Just remember that. Across the Premier League and Champions League, 21 goal contributions, 16 goals, 2 deep positions at the same time is absolutely massive, as we've seen him do so well. As a winger, I mean, we've talked about his metrics, pass completion, 93rd percentile, and maybe even more impressive as a forward, 98th percentile for pass completion, successful take-ons, and progressive passes received. Shot creating actions, 97th percentile. This is a tough act to replace. Luis Díaz, in simple terms, this campaign just gone, has had a Mane-esque season, hasn't he? Brilliant. A key cog for us this time around. However, this is what it comes down to. Luis Díaz is on a smaller wage in football terms, and his contract expires in 2027. He's 28 years old. As we said on the transfer show many a times, and from our info at Anfield Index, there seems no real appetite from Liverpool to offer him a new contract.
But I think Luis Díaz needs to stay. I don't think he needs a new contract just yet, but he definitely needs to stay. I think he's a top quality player. I love the passion he brings to it. I love the energy, his commitment. You know, he can play that false nine role. Arne Slot loves that. Florian Wirtz is probably going to play there. But as well, you've got Gakpo, you've got Diaz on the left. I don't understand why you'd sell him. You know, he wants to go to Barcelona. He said Barcelona is the only team he'd leave Liverpool for. That's fair enough. But Barcelona are not going to pay the money to get him out of Liverpool. So he's definitely going to be there for next season, which I think is a good thing.
It doesn't make sense for them to go into this market and try to sell him. He's been a key part of what they were doing last season. He's incredibly versatile, isn't he? He's a hard worker, and he still has 2 years remaining on his contract. Now, there's no desire, it's my understanding, there's no desire for Liverpool necessarily to hand out a new contract. He's 28 years of age. It would need a big pay bump, which you're probably not handing out to a 28-year-old who's not in your kind of top 4 or 5 players. So that's not something they're keen to do. But neither are they going out into the market and saying, please someone take this guy off our hands, because he is an important player for them. Now, the interesting thing, and what makes this a bit of a story and makes it interesting, is someone going to test Liverpool's resolve around that? Now, if someone comes in with a huge amount that will make them feel that they're then able to go out into the market and replace Diaz, then we've got something to talk about. And as I say, there's been a lot of kind of certainty out there I've seen of, oh yeah, he's off, this is, Liverpool are trying to sell him. I would say this situation is very, very far from that. But keeping a player who's been crucial, as I say, is versatile, is a hard worker, is a good person in the dressing room to have about as well. So they're in no rush whatsoever to sell him, and that is not just them taking a position to try and maximise value. I can pretty confidently tell you that. So it is one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, but with Diaz, who'd you replace him with, man? Like, out of him and Gakpo, to me, they're the best 2 left wingers, except from Gordon. Them two are the best 2 left wingers in the league. I don't see how you replace him, to be honest. I'll keep him, me personally. But if he wants to go, it is what it is. But I won't force him out, me personally.
I agree. And apparently he wants to stay. Apparently he actually does enjoy playing for Liverpool. So just give him an increased deal and an increased contract and give him a new deal, man. He's on 55 grand a week, man. We can at least give him 110. You know what I mean? Like,
wait, is it only 55?
Yeah, he's on 55 grand a week, bro.
No way.
So he wants him a new contract, man. It's very hard to replace him as well. Anyone who's better than him isn't available. It's going to be very difficult to replace him. So I'll keep him, man.
Oh, dear. On the one hand, I like that Luis Díaz has been honest and said, yeah, I'm speaking of other clubs. On the other hand, it's not a good feeling, is it? Not a good feeling. I know this is business. I know this is cold. And at this level, but we're fans and we grow attached to players. And then if a player leaves us before we're ready for them to leave us, it's not a nice feeling.
Thomas, what is your logic regarding the left wing position?
You get 80 million quid for Luis Díaz. You snap their hand off and you run to the high heavens and you go and buy another winger with it. Because Luis Díaz is coming off his first decent season of output at 28 years of age with 2 years remaining on his contract. This is the time to sell. People say, oh, who is better on this market? Who is better? First of all, Rodrigo is already better and is younger. You know who else is already better? Rafael Leão. You know who else is of a similar level? But in fact, no, he's not. He's better. Bradley Barcola. Do you know who might be at a slightly worse level, but has 5 years on Luis Díaz to develop to reach a higher level? Nico Williams. Do you know who might be slightly worse than Díaz, but has 5 years to develop and be better than him? Anthony Gordon. To say there are not wingers on the market who can either immediately be better or give it a bit of time and give it a bit of development in a better team, be better than the 28-year-old Luis Díaz, who has given me over 10 goals in the league for the first time in his career, is mental. Is mental. I can do better than Luis Díaz.